And welcome back to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watts2K99. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch these videos. So the New York Jets offseason is underway. The first two orders of business are signing a general manager and signing a head coach. And as soon as that happens, well, there'll be a lot of decisions to make on players. The Jets in particular have 20 free agents. That's over a third of the roster that is eligible to hit the open market. Specifically, you have 17 unrestricted free agents and 3 restricted free agents. So what I thought we'd do on today's video is mention all 20 pending Jets free agents. And I've also ranked them from 20 to 1. From who I want to bring back the least to who I want to bring back the most. So I'm going to go through my list, give you my reasonings behind them. And if you agree, disagree, hey, it's all good. But we got the same goal, I assume, and that's to see the New York Jets end up with the best roster and actually have a successful 2025 season. What a novel concept. So at number 20, at the bottom of the list, the player I want to see come back the least is the king of unselfishness himself, and that's Hassan Reddick. And how much do I really need to go into this? He gets traded to the Jets. He decides to hold out after he basically gives his word that he would be there for the entire offseason. So he basically lied to the Jets and to the front office. He goes back on his word. He winds up playing 10 games for the Jets. Well, I can't really say that. He suited up for the Jets for 10 games, but I can't really say that he was playing legitimate football. He certainly didn't play like somebody who had made the Pro Bowl the prior 2 seasons. He gets a total of 3 quarterback hits and 1 total sack. 2 half sacks is what they really were. He screwed the Jets this season, and going into this offseason, he really screwed himself. Number 19 is Tyron Smith. This is one of those Joe Douglas free agent signings that made a lot of sense at the time and just failed. It's a lot like Laken Tomlinson. Tyron Smith, we knew that it was risky because of the age, but he played a lot of games last year for Dallas and was a very effective pass blocker. What did we see with the Jets? Penalty after penalty, pressure after pressure allowed. He is talking about possibly retiring. He's done. He is done. And, I'll give him this. He was one of the better run-blocking left tackles in the NFL, but that's not why the Jets brought him in. They brought him in to protect Aaron Rodgers. All you need to do is go back and look at the Denver and the Minnesota games back-to-back that really started to send the Jets off the edge of a cliff. So Tyron Smith, when he goes into Canton, Ohio, don't count on any Jet fans showing up celebrating his career. It's going to be all Cowboy fans. Number 18 is Malik Taylor. He had no game action at all this year. He was on injured reserve ever since August. He's already 29 years old. Had a little special teams role the previous year, little wide receiver role, but move on from him. Number 17, Leki Fotu, the defensive tackle. He was brought in to be the run stopper that the defensive line sorely needed. It didn't work out. He was injured nearly the entire time he was here. He suited up in just 2 games, took 46 snaps, and recorded 3 tackles. Yeah, if they could have just brought back Al Woods. But yeah, Leki Fotu did not work out. For my number 16 player, I'm going to stay on the defensive tackle side of it. I'm going to go with Solomon Thomas. Now, he has been with the Jets for 3 years. He's been the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. I respect that. But now with Robert Saleh gone and Jeff Ulbrich about 99% sure to be gone, I expect a clean break from these San Francisco and Seattle players. Thomas this year had 26 tackles, 3.5 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for a loss. He's an okay player if he's your 4th defensive tackle or so, but I think the Jets can get better, and I think they need to get better. So I think after 3 years, Solomon Thomas, respect to you as a person, as a player, time for a break. Number 15 is going to be ChuckClark, the safety. I think it's a real shame that he dealt with injuries. I think he could have used in a box safety role because he can hit, he can tackle, and he had some veteran leadership that this team is very short on. The problem is he is not good in coverage. He had 69 tackles, which is good, but he had an 8% missed tackle rate. That's his highest in 4 years. Now he's going into his age 30 season, and after dealing with the injuries that he has, missing all of 2023 and parts of 2024, missed 5 games this year, I think you need to get a little bit younger at that position. Number 14 is going to be Javon Kinlaw. A lot of defensive players here. I did not like what I saw from him. We heard in the offseason he had put on 30 pounds of muscle, that he was eating 9 chicken breasts in a single meal, eating a dozen eggs in a single meal. Well, that muscle did not translate to the football field. He played 61% of snaps, about as many as Quinn Williams, actually, had only 40 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss, 5 quarterback hits. He had 7 missed tackles. That's a 15% missed tackle rate, and he got pushed around in the run game like he was a safety. I'm sorry, Javon Kinlaw, see ya. Number 13 is Wes Schweitzer, the backup interior offensive lineman. Played just 1 snap on offense this year, dealt with injuries. Played 4 games total. He had some special teams reps. He's 31 years old. Now, if the next regime wants to keep him as depth on the interior offensive line, I've got no problem with that. This is one I'd be pretty neutral on. You keep him, great. You get rid of him, great. Number 12 is going to be Xavier Newman. Now, this is a restricted free agent. He's 25 years old. Also can give you some depth on the interior offensive line. He played 9 games for the Jets, and then he got hurt in the game against Pittsburgh. There was some concern that it was going to be a severe neck injury, but he does seem to be okay. And maybe with a decent offensive line coach, he could actually improve. So I'll put Xavier Newman, number 12. Number 11 is Ashtyndavis. That's right, the McRib himself. That has become my nickname for him because he appears once every so often. When you see him, he'll get your interest. He'll do something flashy. He'll make a nice play. But you see too much of him, and you just want him to go away. The last member of the 2019 draft class played 26% of the defensive snaps, up 21% from the previous year. Plays a lot of special teams, and that does mean something. And he has a knack for getting interceptions. 2 in the last game, something that some of the marquee secondary players for the Jets don't seem to be able to do. But with Davis, he's prone to taking bad angles and missing tackles. So he signed a 1-year contract before this year. I don't know if he's going to take a 1-year deal again. So my expectation is he moves on, but I would like to see him come back in a limited role, of course. Number 10, we're going to go with Isaiah Oliver. Played all 17 games for the Jets in the secondary. He is going into his age 29 season, but he played cornerback. He played safety. Michael Carter II dealt with injuries all year long. Oliver had to step in. Sometimes he had to step in for djreed when he was hurt. For Sauce, Oliver was like the Swiss Army knife of the secondary. Not a great tackler, missed 11% of his opportunities, but he can cover pretty well. So I think that's another player that you look to bring back for some versatility in the secondary. Number 9, I'm going to go with Ty Conklin, the tight end. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised I have him ranked this low. Look, he's an okay tight end, but I want a tight end who's more than okay to be my number 1. The Jets, to me, have never had a top-level tight end. I mean, Mickey Schuler was good. Dustin Keller was all right for the few years that he was healthy. If Conk was willing to take a little bit of a lesser deal and be the number 2 tight end, I'd be fine with that, but I don't expect it. I expect Conklin to move on as well. He was okay, but he's really about the 4th or so option in the passing game. I'd like to see a tight end who can play a little bit bigger role. Number 8 is going to be Kenny Yeboah, also a tight end, going to be 27 years old, so a little bit younger. I've always liked him, maybe not as much as some other content creators, but you could see when you watch him, he could catch the ball, he can make a play here and there, just hasn't had a lot of opportunities. He beat depth, but I could see him as the number 2, maybe replacing a Jeremy Rucker. I think Yeboah is talented enough where he can step into that role, and he's also a big contributor on special teams. So I would factor that in as well. I think Yeboah just needs more opportunities. I really do. Number 7 is going to be Tony Adams. Now, the safety is a restricted free agent. He's going to be 26 years old. He was, of course, an undrafted free agent out of Illinois, a school that is very good at producing very good safeties. Look at Kirby Joseph, for instance. I'm frustrated with Adams at time, and I'm intrigued by Adams at time. He had 84 tackles this year, which was very good, but he allowed 14-plus yards per completion, over a 10% missed tackle rate. He still needs a lot of fine-tuning. I still think he needs some good coaching. Since he's restricted, I expect him to be back. He won't cost a whole heck of a lot, but he does need to take a step up in 2025. Number 6, Jalenmills. Now, I know he's 30 years old now, but I thought this was a great midseason signing by Joe Douglas. Played 9 games, 44 tackles, 6 passes defended. He had his tackling issues too. He missed 8 in those 9 games, but he allowed just 46.8% of his targets to be completed. Very good for a player in the secondary if you're keeping that below 50%. He could play corner. He could play safety. Spent a good amount of time in New England, so he has that winning background. We got to think about this. The Jets don't have a single safety on their roster for next year. Think about it. I went through Ashtyndavis, ChuckClark, Tony Adams, now Jalenmills. So the Jets have to make some decisions at safety. Isaiah Oliver, same thing. I would really consider giving Jalenmills a year or two to be that veteran because the Jets are going to have to redo their whole safety room. I like having a veteran in there, and I think Jalenmills is more capable of playing than, say, a ChuckClark is at this point. Now, on to the top 5. Number 5 for me is going to be djreed. I fully expect him to walk. Now, he can still play very, very well. He allowed 57% of his passes to be completed, about the same level where he was in the 2023 season. But this year, the injury started to catch up to him. Dealt with concussion issues, groin issues. You know, cornerback is really a young man's position in the NFL. He's about to turn 29 years old. Also, penalties were a problem for DJ. He was tied for the team lead with 9 penalties taken, tied with Sauce Gardner, ironically. So I think DJ is going to price himself out. He's going to want to be the number 1 cornerback someplace. I expect him to be gone, but it will be a free agent contract well spent. Number 4, I'm going to stay with the cornerback position, brandinechols. Now, this would be a little bit more of a risk. I'm not looking at him as being the starter across from Sauce Gardner. He's a little wiry at about 180 pounds, but he's going to be just 28 years old. It would be a reasonable contract. Remember, the Jets only have about $30 million in cap space before you even factor in the 2025 draft class. They're going to have to give out some reasonable deals. And I know brandinechols can make plays, 5 interceptions in 4 years, and this is a defense that has really struggled to turn the other team over. So I think Echols has a very good role as that 3rd cornerback on the outside. So I hope Echols does stay. Number 3 is going to be the last restricted free agent on this list, and that is Irv Charles. He's going to be 28 years old. Now, you could call him a one-trick pony if you want, that he's a special teams ace, that he's a gunner. Well, he played 13 games. And he emerged as an ace at special teams before he got hurt. He tore his ACL in the first Miami game. Do you think that mattered? Well, later in that game, with Charles out, the Jets late in the game surrendered a 45-yard kickoff to Malik Washington. That set up the Dolphins' field goal. So, and that basically cost the Jets the game. Teammates notice him. Other players and coaches notice him. Irv Charles, despite being injured, was named a 2nd Pro Bowl alternate. So he has earned respect around the league. I hope the Jets are able to hold on to him. And then there were 2. My number 2 player that I would like to bring back is Morgan Moses. The only question on the Jets offensive line is right tackle. Now, Moses is 33 years old, but he is regarded as one of the best leaders in a locker room that was void of them, both from a player's and coach's perspective. So the Jets have a huge decision to make. This new front office will have a huge decision to make. Do they keep Morgan Moses, or do they pursue someone outside the organization in the draft or free agency or another trade? You have to respect Moses' toughness. He played 14 games through a litany of injuries. I thought he looked fine, not great, not bad. He was adequate, but that's while he was hurt. If he would take a 2-year deal with no guaranteed money after this season, I'd be very happy about that. I like the idea of him being there to mentor Olu Fashanu, who has a very, very bright future at left tackle. And Elijah Barrett-Tucker, he had an excellent season playing right next to Morgan Moses. You can't tell me that's just happenstance. You just can't. And finally, number 1, the free agent I want to bring back the most, and I think a lot of Jet fans would agree with me, is number 44, linebacker Jamion Sherwood. I named him my defensive MVP, only 24 years old, 98 solo tackles this year. That was the most in the NFL, plus 10 tackles for a loss, had a missed tackle rate under 6%. That is awesome. Played 93% of the snaps this year, starting in week 3 when C.J. Mosley suffered his neck injury. If JD was still here, I think that contract gets signed before the start of free agency. But this new regime, what will they do? this new general manager, will he want to pay a lot of money to a linebacker who has one good season under his belt? Sherwood, this was the first time he really had a lot of opportunities to play more than special teams, and he took advantage of it. If he hits the open market, there'll be a lot of teams who want to bring him in. I hope he remains a New York Jet for many years to come. All right, those are my rankings of the 20 Jets free agents. If you've got some thoughts, put them right down there in the comments. Reminder, join me live Wednesday night, 6 p.m. We are so close to breaking that 1,000 subscriber mark, so please like and subscribe. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you right back here with more content with you know where, the Wicker Chair.